Refuge Freedom Stories, brought to you by Refuge Ministries Canada. For the next half hour, your hearts will be filled with hope as you hear real-life stories from individuals that have been changed by the power of God. Enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Dave Shearer, the host of Refuge Freedom Stories. Today, I'm interviewing a good friend of mine, Mr. Wayde Foss. How are you today, Wayde?
Doing well, thank you, Dave.
Awesome. We're at Arcade, and what's your position here?
I'm the assistant director here at the Ark. That entails a lot of things, from day-to-day operations to maintenance, making sure we've got everything we need, from shopping and that kind of thing. So that's more than enough to keep me busy.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that you're always busy. Your phone is ringing off the hook, even though you tried to turn them all off. Everybody's trying to reach Wayde.
Yeah, sometimes the phone is a necessary evil.
Yes, it is, right? You have a tool shop downstairs here. You're the guy that we're just lending out a cart to somebody, and somebody's coming to you for a drill, and you're moving fridges and photocopiers and setting things up, and
never nothing to do here, I should say. There's always something, and it's quite a variety of things.
And how long have you been here, Wayde?
I'm in my 11th year.
Wow. Yes.
Come April, it'll be 11 years for me.
Mm-hmm. And so, how long have you been in the position you're in?
From the start.
From the start, I thought so.
Yes.
Back in the day, I didn't know what your position was. All I knew was that you did everything.
There are days when I've wondered myself.
I remember coming in to have a meal myself here, and you talking with me, doing some counseling and mentoring me basically, and also asking me to join in and help with prayers and Bible readings and the things we do before the dinners and devotion.
Yeah, it's been quite a long time, and I do remember you coming in and us having conversations and whatnot. So it's good to see you where you're at now, and
Thank you.
It's a great ministry that you have.
We're also now, I'm out working at the Wish, and you were out at the site the other day. We run into each other everywhere with a list of repairs that I'd sent in, and to kind of tackle those, right?
Yeah, there's some maintenance issues out there, maintenance things, and a friend of mine and I went and took a look at it. Some of the things are beyond my expertise level, and I use that word expertise lightly.
With all the things that you are doing, you probably have to readjust constantly, plan Bs. And
yes, flexibility is a good thing if you're involved with the Ark.
Yes.
You could be used hammering a nail one day and sitting with someone and praying with them and counseling them the next.
Absolutely.
It's quite a variety. I like variety. It just seems like it suits me.
God's really using you here, and always has, and it's inspiring to me. I say that with marbles in my mouth. So what drew you to the Ark in the first place?
Well, at the time I was unemployed, working part-time at the Men's Mission, and Doug Whitelaw, who was the previous executive director to Sarah Campbell, who's here now, him and I worked at another ministry previous, and we both left that ministry, and Doug was here at the Ark. Point in time when I needed a job to pay the bills, I had a mortgage, I had all these things, commitments to meet, and working part-time at the mission really wasn't cutting it. At the time, I was thinking about going out to Fort McMurray.
Oh yeah.
I have a brother out there and a sister, and my wife has a brother out there, and I thought I'll just go and see what it's all about. So I had a ticket purchased, and I talked to Doug, and Doug said, before you go, he said, come down to the Ark and see me. I'd like to talk to you. As it ended up, I did go to Fort McMurray for 10 days. But not looking for a job. Yeah. I did not want to go out there. I didn't feel God calling me to go out there. My wife wasn't fussy about going at all.
Yeah, not very.
So I came and talked to Doug, and then he offered me this position, and I thought, you know what, I'll give it a try, and Fort McMurray will still be there if I need it. Up to this point, I haven't needed it. Yeah. So that's how I came here.
That's awesome. So yourself, we were just talking about, when I asked you to do the interview, you're like, there's 100 other people that have better testimonies than me to do an interview. And I disagree with you because, as we were discussing, you gave your heart to the Lord as a young child.
Yes, I did. I don't know if any of you have picked it up by now, but I am from the East Coast. I'm a Newfoundlander. You might detect a little bit of an accent. It comes out once in a while. I come from a large family. I have 9 brothers and 3 sisters. And my parents, my dad passed away about almost 11 years ago now. And Mom is still living. She's up in her 90s in Newfoundland. Coming from a large family like that, I thank God every day. Every one of us in our family are believers. They serve the Lord. That in itself is a miraculous thing.
It is.
And I thank God for that. My dad went home to be with the Lord. He got saved. He was the last one in the household to get saved.
Really?
Yeah, and he went home to be with the Lord, as I said, about 11 years ago. And, we've been just doing our best to follow the Lord.
Yeah.
Give God the glory for that.
Beautiful.
But yeah, born and raised in Newfoundland. And at the time, there was a Christian school system, a Pentecostal school system in Newfoundland, and it was funded by the government.
Wow.
And so I went to a Christian school from grade kindergarten to grade 11, and that's as far as high school went then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was maybe in grade 3 or 4 that an invitation was given in the classroom.
Wow.
You don't see a whole lot of
No.
that nowadays, for sure. And I remember 2 other individuals and myself, we went forward, and our teacher, Miss Harmon, we accepted Christ that day. You know, as I've said many times in sharing my testimony, I was never a drinker or a carouser or never did drugs or any of that kind of thing, right? So, it's been a church life for me all my life. Now, fast forward a little bit, I remember in my teenage years, at about grade 10, I think, still in Christian school, Christian high school by now, I remember feeling God's call on my life for ministry of some sort.
Yes.
I never did feel that God was calling me to be a pastor. It takes a special person to be cut out for a pastor, and that's not the mold that I'm cut from, and couldn't see myself in ministry. I loved the Lord, served the Lord, went to church often, and just fought that call for about 20 years, actually. And it never left me.
Yes.
It never left me. There was never a single day that I didn't feel the call of God. I really felt that I couldn't do it. I was 100% sure I couldn't do it. Prayed about it, lost countless nights of sleep over it, and just went on with life. I didn't turn my back on God.
No.
Just went on with life, busy and involved in the church, worked a full-time job, got promoted to a management position, moved to another town, and very involved in the church, served on the church board, served as a church treasurer. I guess in a way I was trying to appease God, trying to get him off my back,
Yeah.
if I may be as blunt as that. And God had a plan, and I remember carrying this load. It was a load. It was like I was carrying a backpack full of stones all the time.
Wow.
And it was almost physical. And I remember going to church one night, and I was at the end of my rope with this call that God had on my life. And I was dissatisfied with the job I was in, kind of stuck, and finally came to the realization that maybe God knows best. I knew that God knew best, but I went to church that night, and I remember going up and kneeling at the altar, and I prayed, God, I give you permission to do whatever you need to do to get me to wherever you want me to be. And after I prayed that, I thought, so I'm in it. I was at the point where there's no turning back now. If I'm going to get this monkey off my back like I thought it was, I just got to do it. And there was actually almost a physical feeling of that weight lifting.
Wow.
When I stood up from the altar where I knelt that night, I felt like something was missing. Something was gone, and it was that weight.
And you'd been carrying that for years.
20 years.
Wow.
Since grade 10. And I'm well up in my 30s now.
Yes.
And didn't say anything to my wife. At this point, my wife didn't even know that I was struggling with the call of God. I only shared it with one other person, as an older brother of mine, Rick. I used to think that, he was the spiritual one in the family. I'm thinking, God, you called the wrong number. It's him you should have got, not me. He's the spiritual one. And that didn't seem to work either. So I remember going home that night and just with this newfound freedom. And within 2 weeks, I'd worked for the same company for 18 and a half years. Within 2 weeks, I got a layoff notice.
Wow, a little ironic.
Yeah, I was expecting it. And when it came, I can't say I was expecting it, but when it came, I wasn't surprised.
Right, due to your prayer.
Yeah, yes. And I remember that night, I went home and I talked to my wife, and I said, I got a layoff notice today. I said, I'm done in a month. She said, well, what are we going to do? I said, this is going to come as a shock to you. I said, but I know I have to go back to school. Back to school? Where? And I said, well, I'm thinking Peterborough, Ontario. She said, what's in Peterborough, Ontario? I said,
EPBC.
Eastern Pentecostal Bible College it was then.
Yep.
And I think you could have knocked her over with a feather. I was determined. I was moving forward. Scared? Yes, absolutely. Uncertain? Somewhat, yeah. But I was just saying, God, here you are. You're in charge. Take the wheel. I don't know if it was that night or the next night, and I talked to my pastor. And I told him that I just got laid off yesterday. And we talked. He said, there's something wrong with this picture. I said, what do you mean? He said, I'm concerned. He said, you're not acting like somebody who just lost their job. In my mind, you should be more upset and more concerned. And I said, well, let me tell you. Then I shared with him that it was all part of God's plan. And to fast forward again a little bit, we just bought a house 6 months previous.
Yep.
6 months into a 25-year mortgage. We sold the house, didn't lose any money, didn't make any, but didn't lose any. I remember that house, when we moved into Twillingate, Newfoundland, where we were living, 8.5 years earlier, and we drove into Twillingate, one of the first houses back then as you drive into Twillingate. My wife, as we drove by, I'd like to own that house one day. Out of the blue, 8 years later, that's the house that we bought.
Wow.
I'm thinking, how do I tell my wife that we got to sell the house?
Yeah.
And I told her, And her response was, it's just a house. God was preparing her as well.
Yeah, everything's working out.
Everything is working out. Everything is working out. So we went through all the motions of preparing to leave Newfoundland, applied for Bible college, and was accepted. In 1997, we packed everything that we owned in a Hyundai Elantra and a little trailer that I'd made and headed for Ontario.
Man, am I ever glad you did.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Studied at Bible college for 4 years. Got a bachelor's degree in theology with a missions major. Again, really feeling that God wasn't calling me to pastoral ministry. Always questioned, what am I going to do when I graduate from Bible college? I remember there was an individual from an organization, Mission Partners International, run by Ron Garrison at the time, and he came to the Bible college to speak. And this was in my third year now, and we're looking at doing an internship. And being a cross-cultural major, I wanted to do an overseas internship, a cross-cultural internship. So I wrote a letter to Mission Partners and sat and talked with Ron. Again, to make a long story short, my wife and I ended up in Novokuznetsk, Siberia for 3.5 months.
Siberia.
And
goodness.
Yeah, we arrived there in late September and we left in early December and came home, and it was a life-changing experience. One of the things I wanted to determine by that trip was, am I cut out for an overseas missionary?
Great.
And prayed about it a lot while we were there. Enjoyed the trip and the experience immensely. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I really felt that I was not cut out for overseas ministry.
Yes.
And again,
God was speaking clearly to you through this calling.
And after coming home, I'm thinking, like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? Not so long after, I got a call from Mission Partners. They were looking for someone to work with them and for them in the former Soviet Union. I really felt a call on my life for Slavic people at the time. Again, it all fell into place. So for 7.5 years, I worked for Mission Partners International. I was their humanitarian aid manager.
Incredible.
And we shipped containers of humanitarian aid into the former Soviet bloc countries, took ministry teams as well as work teams into some of the stands, and mostly for me, it was St. Petersburg, Russia, where we sponsored a very large drug rehab center there, sort of on the Teen Challenge model, but much bigger. Did that for 7.5 years, and when that was up, we're just about to where I am now, I found a job with Mission Services here in London, just part-time. And it was at that time that Doug contacted me and see if I would
so full circle.
Here.
One thing that I'd like to mention, did not want to overlook, Wayde, is that you are also the pastor, which is the spiritual head here, leadership in the spiritual and guiding people through all different avenues along that line.
Things came full circle. Looking back, I sometimes I wonder, what if I had been receptive to God's call 20 years earlier?
Yes.
Where would I be? And I can't dwell on that. Only God knows, and He's brought me to where I am now. Since coming to Ontario, my wife and I have 2 beautiful daughters, Sarah and Lily. Right now, Sarah is 18, Lily is 16.
Well, that's incredible, because, that question of what if you had started earlier responding to the call, but you weren't there yet. And maybe God was preparing you, and it was all part of his plan, because the person you are today and all the experiences you've had up until this point have put you where you are today, where you're the guy that people need here at the Ark, and the people from the street, and the drug addicts, and guys like me, and everybody, and on top of that, got, many pokers in the fire all over the place, helping out all over, and God's using you. And it's really inspiring. You had a message to leave with anybody listening today, what would you say?
That's a big question.
Something maybe that, you've learned along the way that maybe will inspire people, the population you work with specifically, and other people. There's all kinds of people listening.
The most important thing and the most important decision that a person can make in their life is a decision to follow Christ. To accept him as their Savior and to follow him as best they can. A lot of people don't do that because they think they're not good enough. They think they can't be good enough. Well, I'm not good enough. I never will be good enough. But that's where God's grace comes in.
Yes.
And that's where the element of faith comes in. And, God's mercy has been extended to me far more than I deserve. Far more than I deserve. And, to someone out there who is wondering, and maybe God is calling you to something specific. Take it from me. Don't waste another moment in thinking that because I don't know tomorrow, I'm afraid of it. I don't know tomorrow, but I'm not afraid of now. And God will lead you. If it truly is God's call, you couldn't be in better hands. If anybody out there wants to talk to me about this further, you can reach me here at the Ark anytime.
Beautiful. Oh, I appreciate you taking the time today. As I said, I'm finding out more of your story I never knew today. So that's all part of building a relationship with
Yes,
the
it
body
is.
of Christ. And, I just hope that you're continuing to be blessed with God. I see God in your life all around you and through the work you're doing and through your personality and your interactions with people. And I just wish the biggest blessing on you, my brother.
I appreciate the opportunity, Dave. God bless you and your ministry as well. And thanks for the t-shirt.
You're welcome. You got a t-shirt that says Refuge Freedom Stories. Thanks very much.
Got this feeling inside me, it gets stronger every day. Don't have to push it, no. Seem to find its own way. Just like a child whose dreams have come alive. I get excited 'cause I found out where love resides. And when love resides, there is no fear. And when love goes, love makes it real. Dreams that were only locked inside, that's where love resides. Somewhere deep inside us all, that's where love resides. Like a man out of prison, locked away for a long time. I get a thrill of the simple things, like sitting back watching the sun begin to rise. I don't have to look over my shoulder anymore. Find the strength to get by where love resides. And when love resides, there is no fear. And when love goes, love makes it real. Dreams that were only locked inside, that's where love resides. Somewhere deep inside us all, that's where love resides. Everybody's fighting just to be understood. Understood why we fight, we do the thing we should. Take another look in your brother's eye. You look hard enough, I know you're gonna find. I know you're gonna find. Oh, when love resides, there is no fear. And when love goes, love makes it real. Dreams that were only locked inside, that's where love resides. Somewhere deep inside us all, that's where love resides. Somewhere deep inside everybody, that's where love resides. I said love, said love, said love, said love casts out all fear. Let love, let love, let love hold on. Said love, said love, got a hold on it now. Somewhere deep inside us all, that's where love resides.
And now a few words from Alan Campbell about Refuge Ministries Canada.
Refuge Ministries Canada started when I was invited to share my testimony from accepting the Lord at 19 in Millhaven Penitentiary to be interviewed on 100 Huntley Street. As a result of this interview, I was invited by a local church in Spruce Grove, Alberta, to share my testimony at the Edmonton Young Offender Detention Center, where a 12-year-old boy, whose role models were Jeffrey Dahmer and Charles Manson, accepted the Lord. Leaving the youth jail that Tuesday night, I got on an airplane to fly back to London, realizing that nothing was being done to support him, disciple him, and mentor him when he was released. That is how Refuge Ministries Canada started.
I hope that you have enjoyed the last half hour as much as I did. Thank you again to Refuge Ministries Canada for hosting the show. So until next Friday, may God richly bless you with peace, love, and happiness.
Refuge Ministries are so blessed by the success of Refuge Freedom Stories and podcasts. In addition, we focus on youth prison ministry, release kits, and many other diverse outreaches to the needs of our community. As a nonprofit, there are many costs involved, however, and we are asking for your support. Financial gifts can be made via our website at www.refugeministriescanada.com or by calling 519-701-0108. Your giving makes this work possible, and we thank you in advance for your support. That's 519-701-0108. God bless you.